Hey everyone, Alexi here, producer from Exile. In this video, I'm going to take you through the 4 categories of film equity investors. So the way that we split out the categories is to have hot, warm, mild, cold investors. And in this video, I'm going to take you through what each of those categories looks like, who falls into those categories, and at the end of the video, I'm going to explain to you how you can use the categories to get out there and find potential leads for your film. Okay, so the first type of category, or the first category, is hot. And the people that we group into the hot category is anyone within your immediate network, anyone that you have direct access to or you have a personal relationship with. So this is the old family and friends category of investors. And the reason they're hot is because there is a high likelihood or a higher likelihood that you're going to be able to convert those types of people. So film investment is so high risk that it greatly assists when you're trying to raise private investment if you have a relationship with that person, because that creates a level of trust between filmmaker and investor that doesn't exist if that person doesn't know you or doesn't have any knowledge of you as a person or of your production company or your film. So it's a great category, and it's the place that every filmmaker should start at. So even when we're raising finance on our projects, we always start with those hot investors. We look at our immediate network, who we have access to, and we start thinking about whether this particular film could be the right project for them to invest in. So that's where you start. The next type of investor is the warm investors. And the people that we group in warm investors is anyone that is one person removed from you. So you don't know that investor, but you have what we refer to as a conduit. So someone that can make that introduction to the other investor. So the relevant part of this category is to find those conduits, because you're not going to know who the investors are that they're going to put you in touch with. You don't know what their network is, but you know that that person, A, wants to help you, and B, has access to some sort of network. So the conduit is someone that we have used multiple times on projects to help get us in touch with potential investors. And a conduit could also be an existing investor from the hot category. So someone that you know that invests into your film could actually become a conduit. They could start introducing you to other people. And one thing that I've found extremely interesting or eye-opening about raising finance for a film is that often you don't know who your investors are going to be when you start out. But you start on the process, and then one person introduces you to another person, introduces you to another, and that kind of network that you start with, that hot category, basically just starts building out and starts becoming bigger. So the conduit forms the basis of the second category, which is warm. And your chance of converting warm leads is slightly less than converting hot leads, because that person that's going to invest doesn't actually know you, but you're relying on your relationship with the conduit to act as that reason to build trust between you and that potential investor. So because there's that middleman, that middle person, that's going to build a level of trust. They're going to trust the conduit, and the conduit in turn trusts you. The third category is what we refer to as mild. And mild, anyone that falls within the mild category is a person that is in the film industry and has either invested cash into a project before, or they have been responsible for raising finance. So usually the people that sit within this category are producers and or executive producers of similar films. So we always want to try and find those people who are involved in films that are similar to the one that we're raising finance on. And we want to look at who are the Who are the people behind that project? Who are the private investors? Who are the executive producers who are involved in the industry that might have been instrumental in raising the finance? And who are the producers behind the project? Because we know if they've been involved in raising finance on a similar film before, then A, they either have capital or access to capital, and B, they're interested in this type of project. They're interested in funding this type of project. Now, obviously it helps if that film was also a commercial success. So that is worth having a look into as part of your research. But this type of category is great because you're going in knowing that that person has some exposure to film finance, but they don't have any knowledge of you. And so you have to build up that trust. So that's why it's not as high converting as hot or warm, because they don't have any knowledge of you, they don't have any relationship with you. But it's higher than the cold category that we're going to take you through, because we know that that experience with film finance exists, and we know that they have an interest in this type of project. So finally, the cold category is basically any leads that you're approaching that have no relationship with you and have no knowledge of the project. So as the name implies, you're going in cold. You're reaching out to people completely cold, and you're trying to pitch them the project and to try and get them to invest. So the reason that this is the cold category is because it by far has the lowest conversion rate. So if you're going out to a cold investor, you firstly need to convince them that the project is one that they should invest in, right? So it's financially sound. You need to make sure that there's some sort of emotional driver, some sort of reason why they'd invest. And then you also need to get them to trust you. So it's basically the hardest of all the categories, and that's why it's named cold. And so if you're looking to raise finance on your film, then I encourage you to basically sit down on a piece of paper and create a table, right? And just have hot, warm, mild, and cold. And within that, start listing out the potential investors that could sit within each of those categories. Another way you can do it is simply open up a spreadsheet, create 4 tabs, one for each category, and start listing people that fall within. And then starting from hot, start pitching to those people. So go through all your hot leads first, then find your conduits, pitch to them. Go through warm, right? Do a lot of research on similar films, find the people behind them, make a big list, start reaching out to them. And then finally, once you've exhausted all that, then you can go out to your cold investors. Because with each of those categories, the conversion rate, the likelihood of you actually converting one of those potential leads into an investor decreases. So if you're in a position where you don't have anyone that can fall within the hot or the warm category, and you're only relying on mild or cold, then what's really important to think about is the level of finance that you're trying to raise. So I've been in this position on my first 2 films where I really didn't have anyone that I was comfortable going to and trying to get investment from at that stage in my filmmaking career. Then I knew that I'd have to either go to mild investors or cold investors. And that really just made me think really carefully about how much finance I was actually going to try and raise for a project and what the budget would be. And ultimately, because I knew that that would be such a difficult thing to do, especially on the first or second film, I opted to simply self-finance those projects with the filmmakers that I was working with. So that's something important to think about. If you're only if your only strategy is to go out to cold investors, then you need to think clearly about how much finance you're actually trying to raise. And you want to think even more clearly about how much finance can you bring into the project, and is there a way to self-finance this? Because if you're only relying on cold, it's going to be hard for you to raise a serious level of finance. So that's the framework that we use for determining the different categories of investors. And that's how I suggest that you immediately go away and apply this framework to your project. And hopefully that's going to help you to start identifying some investors that you can pitch to. And hopefully it will get you just thinking about who are the different types of potential investors that you can find out there and you can go and start pitching to. So that's it for the video. Hope you liked it. If you did, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel for more filmmaking advice, and of course leave some comments in the comment section below. If you've got any other follow-up questions, throw them in there and I'd be happy to get back to you. That's it for this video, and we'll see you on the next one.